My Auto Store, quality recycled OEM auto parts.
I'm Aaron Telitz, 23 years old, from a small town, Birchwood, Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. I'm living in Minneapolis, Minnesota right now, though. Back home is Birchwood, Wisconsin. I grew up on a small fishing resort, the Fred Thomas Resort on Lake Chetek. Grew up with an older brother, Ted, and yeah, grew up on a family fishing resort. It was really fun, but also lots of work. I think people don't usually understand what goes into a resort. You know, they just think, oh, you live at a resort, that's gotta be fun all the time. When I was 8 years old, I had a job filleting fish for the resort guests. So resort guests would go out, catch fish, and if they wanted me to clean them for them, I would fillet them right up and charge them per fish. Ted started filleting fish when he was, I think, 10 years old, around there, and my mom grew up on the same resort, so she filleted fish when she was younger with her sister. Two families lived on the resort, so my family with my mom and dad and Ted, and then my aunt and uncle and cousins lived literally across the resort on the other side of it, because my mom and then my aunt and uncle ran the resort, and so I grew up with my cousins literally across the yard from me. So it was always a family affair growing up. We were always, you know, fighting or getting along or causing mischief together. You know, it was easy access to the outdoors when you go out your back door and you go swimming or you go out on the boat, you know, when you had free time, or you go biking or whatever. So that was really easy. You know, I don't know what it's like growing up in a city or even a suburb. I grew up in a town whose population was 518 at the time. So I don't even know what it would have been like to grow up, you know, somewhere in a city or that sort of a setting. I was fortunate enough growing up that I got to travel quite a bit. Even when I was younger, our family would take vacations, mostly in the winter, because the resort obviously has to run during the summer, so we never went on any summer vacations or anything like that. So it was always winter vacations, and it felt like we were always going somewhere cold, like the mountains to go snowmobiling, or Colorado to go snowboarding and skiing. So we did a lot of family vacations in the winter, and I got to travel abroad to Denmark and to England. When I was in high school, I was in a British literature class that went to England, which was a seriously awesome experience for such a small school that I went to. My dad's the one with the racing blood, although my mom will tell you that I got most of my good driving skills from her, so there's that. But yeah, my dad built snowmobile racing engines. He worked on stock cars when he was growing up with his friends. He's just a big motorhead. He runs a marina, so loves to work on motors. I have an awesome girlfriend. She is absolutely the best. I met her when I was a sophomore in college, and so we've been dating for 3 years now. And we've been going strong, going well. She gives me tons of support in racing. She tries to come to all of the races, whatever ones she can make it to. And so she obviously loves it and hates it. Hates it because I'm gone a lot, but loves it because she loves seeing, you know, how happy I get about it and how much passion I have for it. I'm really just a simple small town kid, you know. I came from a regular family. I'm not some kid that was made to drive race cars or anything like that from the beginning. I grew up on a resort and a big family guy. I'm just a regular kid that's trying to do something big. My brother was driving go-karts when he was 10 years old, so that would have put me at 4. And I vaguely remember him going to the go-kart track, and I would get to come along and I would watch him. And when I was 6 years old, my dad brought a go-kart home for me, and I got to drive it around our driveway. I put on my snowmobile suit because I thought it was the closest thing to a race suit that I had, and put on my snowmobile helmet and drove it around. That was the first time I ever drove a go-kart. And then when I was 8, I finally got to start racing go-karts. Actually started racing go-karts at John Menard's go-kart track in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. After that, it was just all about having fun at the go-kart track, you know? I mean, I was just a young preteen at the races, mostly hanging out with my friends at the go-kart track, just like kids do. And I wouldn't say I was ever something phenomenal at racing go-karts when I was young. I was just doing it for fun. And then when I was 12 years old, something clicked and go-kart racing came more naturally to me. Driving was was, I wouldn't say easier, but I started doing well and won a track championship when I was 12 years old. So that was my first time really thinking, oh, I'm pretty good at this. When I was 16 years old, my parents got me a school to go to the Skip Barber Racing School. So when I was 16, just like a lot of the kids that I race against now, you know, they got to go to a racing school and drive a race car for their first time when they were 16. I mean, I thought I did well at the school. Driving a race car was super fun, and my parents pretty much told me, you know, well, you can go and try out for this Skip Barber karting scholarship shootout, or you can keep racing go-karts. And so I kind of weighed my options and went, well, you know, if I keep racing go-karts, I'm going to keep having fun and enjoying it. Or if I go do this shootout thing, you know, that might be my last time ever really driving, sort of like, you know, that would be my last shot. And so as a 16-year-old, I just wanted to keep having fun and driving go-karts, which I think makes me different from a lot of the kids that are racing nowadays. And so I just went back to racing go-karts all the way up until I was 19 years old. And then, so when I was a freshman in college, I went to college because having a career in racing was always something that I wanted to do, but I had no way of doing it or means of doing it, really. You know, my family wasn't going to financially support me in racing, so I went to college just like every other regular kid did, went to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and my freshman year I decided to go back and try out for the Skip Barber Karting Scholarship Shootout, and ended up winning a scholarship to start racing Skip Barber cars. I've come so far, and a lot of times I look back at it and wonder, how in the world did I make it here, unless there's some reason that I should continue on. Like, things have happened as far as getting here that are just almost like miraculous or magical, you know, that a lot of times when I sit back and look at it, I have no idea how I made it this far sometimes. People will ask me that. They'll be like, well, how'd you get here? And I'll be like, well, a lot of good fortune for sure. And obviously lots of hard work, you know. Just being able to start from essentially ground zero, no budget, you know, no money to build up to having raised enough to race in 3 seasons of professional racing. Right now I'm using the Mazda Road to Indy as my ladder to climb up to the top of motorsports, basically. So Mazda has a great scholarship program, which I've gotten to take advantage of twice in my career, once in Skip Barber and then once for USF 2000. And it's been a serious boost, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to essentially help me continue racing. So without Mazda and the Mazda Road to Indy, I have pretty much them to thank for getting me as far as I have. The biggest thing that drives me is making sure that I'm happy with my life and what's going on, you know. As soon as I'm not enjoying racing or it's not making me happy anymore, then what would be the point? But for me, racing is the thing that makes me the happiest in the world, and so as long as that's still happening, I'm going to keep on pursuing it. I don't pretend to come from a family that's not well off. My family is well off. They own 2 businesses, but you know, they're changing the game by saying, all right, you can do this, but we're not the ones that are going to put you there. You're going to have to do it on your own. And I think that's something really valuable that my parents have given me, where at first, you know, that's kind of annoying as someone who's trying to start off, like, well, how am I going to do this without my parents' help? The most crucial thing in motorsports right now, and it sounds so shallow to say, but it's funding. That's it. Like, I mean, you know, you can be a terrible driver, absolutely awful, but if you bring a racing team enough money, they're not going to say no to you, because then they're making money, and maybe they can then afford to put someone else who's maybe faster in another car. So basically, what it comes down to is being able to market yourself, to have the funding to continue to go on. And obviously, for me, I want to make sure that I'm also doing really well and being competitive in whatever I'm driving. I feel like the competition initially is really, really high in go-karting and in the lower formula car ranks, because the funding needed to do that is not very high. So if you think about it, more people can race go-karts, more people can race Formula Ford, more people can race USF 2000. You don't need, you know, millions of dollars, let's say, or something like that to race in it. So at those levels, if you're doing really well in go-karting and Formula Ford and USF 2000, you know, you're someone to watch to move up the ladder. And so that's what I've been doing, and I feel like that's been really key to my success for moving up, is doing so well at the lower levels. Calling, emailing, writing letters even to people or companies or businesses or anyone I could think of that could maybe help me advance my racing career. Not advance, but get it started, get it off the ground, basically. people that I've known, or maybe even just family acquaintances, or some people, total strangers that I've never met in my entire life, trying to explain to them, you know, what I was trying to do, what I stand for, and where I'm trying to go. And if they wanted to essentially come along with me on my journey. You know, when you're starting off as a race car driver, there's not a lot you have to offer companies or people in terms of support or exposure or anything like that. So it's basically just their belief in me, and that's where it went from there. I'm not a cookie cutter driver. I'm not, you know, from a family who basically wanted their kid to be a racing car driver from day one. You know, I even went off to college before trying to pursue racing. It's something that I really want to do, and I'm doing it in a way that's unique to what most kids do. One thing that I really want to do is kind of change the racing game, you know, how it works. Right now, it's such a young kid's game, and I'm almost like an old man at 23, which sounds crazy to most people. But, you know, I want to change the game to show that anyone can do this, from any background, from wherever you come from. You can make it into racing. You don't have to have a last name of Andretti, or you don't have to have parents that have millions or billions of dollars or that sort of thing. You know, I'm doing this on my own, essentially, with obviously help from supporters that I've gained, and that's what I want to do. I want to change the game to show people that you can do this. You don't have to give up on it. I don't really fear failing, because I feel like no matter what happens in my racing career, I'm going to feel like it's a great success. I'm going to probably write a book about it or something, because it's been a crazy journey, all the things that have happened. But I guess I almost fear letting other people down more than myself. You know, that's kind of more my fear. I want to stay true to myself. I don't care to ever, you know, flaunt myself around, I guess, like a really super famous race car driver. Obviously, I want to be a very famous race car driver, but I don't want to act like that. I don't want that to change me. I like being me, and if that ever starts to change me, you know, I'll have to take a step back maybe and cool my jets a little bit. I would say I want it more than anybody else. I haven't been, you know, spoon-fed, you know, have everything served up on a silver platter my whole life. I've had to work for everything, so I'm willing to work harder to go faster than the other guy. I want to win the Indianapolis 500 and the IndyCar Championship. I see myself as a serious, you know, threat to get into an IndyCar ride in the next 3 to 4 years and be able to you know, make some waves in it. I feel like I have the talent and I have the motivation, as long as I can get myself there. In my small town, I love Birchwood, Wisconsin, and I like to think that they love me too, because they've been great to me. You know, that's where, you know, when I first started out, the people that I was reaching out to were a lot of Birchwood residents. That's how I was gaining my, you know, contact list, was just people from Birchwood that I knew. And so that's how I was reaching out. I would love to bring an IndyCar trophy home back to Birchwood, Wisconsin. That'd be absolutely awesome.